Hi guys, this is Jill from Cheap Thrills, and today I just wanted to get everyone up to speed on what was done with the Fiero project so far prior to me starting to film again. I'll also give a little backstory about how we acquired it, and then hopefully we'll be all caught up and we can refer to this stuff without it being confusing. So, like Mike said in what I like to call our comeback video, we actually owned a 1986 Pontiac Fiero with the stock 2.8-liter V6 and the 4-speed Muncie manual transmission since, I want to say, 2019. We can do a video on this one on some future date, but suffice it to say, the drivetrain has exceeded all of our expectations in refusing to break down, and we just can't reward that with ripping it all out. Also, wouldn't it be sacrilege to rip out a manual and put in an automatic? So long story short, Mike and I had been looking around for quite a while for a cheap Fiero with an automatic that we would have no qualms ripping out. One day, in February of 2023, we happened upon a Facebook Marketplace listing in a small town in southern Indiana, and Mike immediately worked out a deal with the seller. As you can see from the messages, the agreed upon price was initially $500, and the seller said it had a GM 3800 in it that had started and run for at least a little while, as recently as the day before. Well, when we got there, reality was, shall we say, a little bit different. The 3.8 was about 3/4 of the way installed, and was held in the car with a ratchet strap. The young country boy who was selling it couldn't get it to start at all, and it didn't really seem like it had ever been. We do kind of understand that people prop up listings on Facebook Marketplace, so that wasn't such a big deal, but we found something extremely concerning to both of us once we looked under the hood. The boy and his friends had apparently cut away some of the structural frame in the rear to get the engine in, for reasons unknown, and they had also cut a big hole in the strut tower. Why they did this is anyone's guess, but it was enough to make Mike want to walk away from it. The boy was nice, though, and offered to go lower on the price, so we ended up putting it on the trailer for $400. We always have a lot of projects going on, and don't necessarily work on only one thing at a time, so the Fiero sat in the barn for a while, until Mike felt like trying to get the 3.8 to run to at least be able to drive it around the yard. This is a video of it finally running after cleaning it up and installing a VATS bypass for the security system. After that, we did what we always do. Try to make it look cooler before getting knee-deep in the mechanics. The original black paint was in horrible condition, faded and damaged all over, so we gave it a few coats of Black Knight metallic paint, which we sanded and buffed. It's still a work in progress, but it's enough to get an idea. We experimented with 2 different looks, one with dark bronze accents that could be called modern or could be called tacky, we're not sure. And no, we did not choose those wheels. They came with the car. The other side is the more classic look, leaving the gray border at the bottom and adding some red pinstriping. The Chevy Beretta rims look surprisingly awesome on it. They aren't big enough for racing though. I personally am leaning towards the classic look, with a more 80s inspired orange instead of red pinstriping and accents. Imagine the Pontiac logo on the headlight cover, an atomic orange, or the various Fiero badges throughout the car. After that, we had to get down to business and repair the frame damage from the previous owner. Fieros rarely make it into our local pull-apart, but somehow we got extremely lucky, and not 1, but 2 ended up there over the summer. We took a sawzall and a grinding wheel and cut the missing section of our frame out of one of the Fieros, and scavenged some missing interior pieces from the other. Then Mike got to work cutting and grinding the frame piece to custom fit, and then welded it in. He also ground off the weird piece of angle iron they had tacked on before. Now you can't even tell that it was ever missing. At this point, we wanted to confirm something we were suspicious of ever since we got the 3.8 running. We'll probably do a more in-depth video in the future about all of our experiences with the stock Fiero fuel system. But to make a long story short, we knew from owning the Gold Fiero that unless the tank was kept full of fresh gas all the time, which is not the case if you buy one out of a field or that has sat in the garage for years, the inside of the tank is basically disintegrating away. Debris from this clogs the fuel filter, lines, and injectors, and the car runs like crap. Sure enough, when we lowered the fuel tank on this Fiero, we saw the same thing happening here. You can see the pieces of debris just hanging out there on the baffle. We wanted to see if we could fix or at least slow this calamity down by marinating the inside of the tank in commonly used acids for rust removal. We did tests with evaporust, muriatic acid, and phosphoric acid, which you can see accumulated around the hole for the fuel pump. The acids definitely made a difference in the short term, but as you can see in the next photo, we found out after a week the tank was back to looking like it always had. This could be due to exposure, but we also can't check it without opening it again, and of course, it's also unlikely that we will be able to keep these tanks full of new gas all the time. We're not sure what we're going to do about the fuel tank at this point, and our experiments will be ongoing. We know some people will suggest to just replace it all with a much larger fuel cell, and that is something we're considering doing since the stock fuel tank is only 11 gallons at most. However, we really do like to leave the cars as stock as possible and believe in the general rule of keeping things simple. So, it is an ongoing debate. I wish I had more footage of this, but unfortunately, I did not capture us getting this thing inside the garage, hoisting the rear end up in the air, and lowering the 3800 and cradle down from the car. Our actual filming picks up somewhere between getting the engine out from underneath the car and mic coating the frame in Por 15 to preserve its condition and prevent any future rust issues. You can actually hear he and I discussing the NORTHSTAR swap in this video.
Anyway, we should just get some factory studs to put in because these don't pull the head bolts on the newer ones. The threads are fine in the block. Okay, I am out.